137 people died in violent incidents this year. But they were not just statistics, and these faces represent a mere fraction of the lives we lost. The oldest was a longtime Bakersfield resident, a mother and grandmother, stabbed in the home where she had lived for over 40 years. The youngest died 3 days after doctors cut him from the body of his murdered mother. KGET created our tracker 6 years ago to tell the story of these victims, and since then, we've closely examined every single homicide in the county. And what we found this year, more families suffered loss than any time before.
They were the moments that horrified us, the moments that shocked us. And in a year of much division, they were the moments that grief brought communities together.
So wrong what they did. It's innocent people. Go kill each other. If that's what you want to do, go do it.
Lisa Osorno, grandmother of 11-year-old Michaela Osorno, expressing the grief many families felt this year after Kern County shattered its record for homicides. Michaela and her friend, 12-year-old Elena Dorig, were gunned down while they played in the front yard of a home during a birthday party in Delano. 2 of dozens of lives snuffed out by gang violence. Their case, like the 8 other investigations in Delano, going unsolved into the new year.
Just come forward. What if it was your granddaughter? What if it was your baby?
But solving crimes is harder when no one wants to talk. Something Delano Police Chief Robert Navarez knows all too well, pointing out that even when innocent children are killed, no one speaks up.
This is another shooting where many of the persons that were present are failing to cooperate with the police, and it makes it very difficult for us to solve these cases and break up the cycle of violence.
While it wouldn't be known until later, the 2 girls were killed the same day as Bakersfield's Patricia Alatorre, dead at just 13 years old after being kidnapped, raped, and murdered, allegedly by a man from Inglewood she met on social media.
I don't understand why.
These deaths spurred a summer of vigils, anger, and fear for the safety of children in our community.
Even if it's not your own child, be vigilant for the children.
By the time of Patricia's midsummer murder, 7 children and teens had already died. This year, 20 victims were younger than 20 years old, with 14 of them younger than 18. In October, on the night a mural was unveiled for Patricia Alatorre, Luis Castillo Jr. was shot just 2 miles away. He was killed a month shy of his 16th birthday. Youth violence was a trend apparent by the end of January, capitalized by a deadly knife fight outside Foothill High School, killing 17-year-old Jose Flores Jr.
It takes the community. This is a community problem. You know, this ain't no East Side problem. I mean, this is a community problem, man, because it's happening all over the city.
54 victims this year were younger than 30, but the age range is wide. From 73-year-old Rosie Lee Howard, a mother and grandmother killed in her home of more than 40 years, to 3-day-old Josiah Rivera, who died just days after his pregnant mother, Audrey, was shot to death on Easter Sunday.
Every day she would come by my house and honk her horn, and I would come out and talk to her, and now I wait for her to come by, and she's not there no more.
Josiah was laid to rest in his mother's arms.
It's not an uptick, it's an epidemic.
From self-defense killings to law enforcement shootings to outright murder, Kern County has never been a stranger to violence. Since 2015, Kern County's homicides kept rising, breaking a record each year until 2019. It was the first drop in years, but the county's homicide rate still outpaced the rest of the state. Official statistics show more than 9 people died per every 100,000. That's more than double the state's average, and it's also higher than the national average. Now, in 2020, the number of homicides surpassed the last 5 years by double digits. Sheriff Donnie Youngblood putting the situation bluntly at a press conference with the state attorney general.
We have a very violent community. This is a societal problem that we have to address.
He made the comment as the sheriff's office and Department of Justice agreed to policy changes meant to reduce use of force against suspects. Between the sheriff's office and Bakersfield Police Department, 15 suspects were killed this year. Homicide, as defined by the coroner, includes any time one person kills another, even in a completely justified officer-involved shooting. But while the county's law enforcement has had a reputation for its high rate of shootings, Youngblood says this year, suspects have been more aggressive than before.
People tend to want to run away from us and hide from us. That's our history. And this is something different that is pretty frightening.
Put the knife down. Put him down.
Body camera video showing moment after moment after moment of suspects charging at officers and deputies. But it's the shootings where the cameras weren't rolling, like the death of Fernando Napoles. He was killed after KCSO says he brandished a firearm in a remote part of eastern Kern. But his family has trouble believing this.
We have no idea how he got there. We don't even know whose car did he have, because he did not have a car.
Napoles is from Lancaster. His family says he struggled with drugs and was living from shelter to shelter in the high desert. They don't know how he'd get a gun and are skeptical he would threaten a deputy with one. But without video proof, there are many questions they fear they will never have answers to.
We will never know the truth. We're not going to find out if my brother was doing, what they're saying. And so basically, we just have to go with what the police said.
The sheriff says the county's budget didn't support enough cameras for deputies in the outlying communities. A look at our tracker shows in Mojave alone, there were 4 homicides in 2020, 3 of them shootings by KCSO deputies. Surveillance video has only been released for 1, the shooting of 39-year-old Michael Lewis Sr. KCSO says charged at a deputy with his hand in his waistband after grabbing something from his SUV. A gun was recovered in a dirt lot away from the vehicle.
This makes my father another statistic of another African-American shooting.
Family members are challenging the county in court for his death.
5396.
For criminal homicides, there are still dozens of cases where no suspect has been arrested, like the case of Angelina Betts.
She had a list of people she'd call every morning just to make sure that they knew they had a friend and that they had someone who cared about them. She was just very selfless.
The young woman was stabbed in an altercation one night. Her friend tried driving her to a hospital, but crashed on Mount Vernon Avenue. BPD says the stab wound, not the collision, is what killed her. We know who's accused of the crime, 19-year-old Jennifer Maldonado. Months later, she still hasn't been caught.
Just turn yourself in. Like, stop making my family suffer. Like, she did enough already.
CHP for an assist.
But there are many other cases where a suspect hasn't even been named. 16-year-old Valentin Ramirez, 17-year-old Raul Fernandez, and 18-year-old Adrian Ochoa were all found shot to death in a vineyard near Lamont. Their killer is still unknown. That happened barely a week after the shooting of Nayeli Gonzalez, a Fresno State student back home visiting family in Delano. The night of January 2nd, police say she was with a friend at Cesar Chavez Park when 3 strangers approached them, argued, then gunned her down. As we approach 1 year since then, no suspects have been announced in her case.
Affirmative on medical.
Kern County may have set a grim record this year. Now we'll see if 2021 will keep the renewed trend or show that the violence was just a symptom of a very bad year.
Here at Circle 17, we know data points and court documents can only provide so much. Homicide Tracker is a project that aims to go beyond all that to tell each victim's stories. And for that, we are always in need of your help. If you have photos, stories, or any other information about a victim to share, please contact us. You can leave information on our website, or you can email me directly at raphaelstroud@kget.com.